21 of the Army's toughest mountaineers are preparing to climb Everest the hard way. Their aim is to become the first British team ever to climb the notoriously difficult and deadly West Ridge all the way to the top. On this treacherous route, they'll have to battle 150-mile-an-hour winds, freezing temperatures and sheer cliffs of ice, while their bodies self-destruct from the extreme altitude. Of the 2,219 people who've summited Everest, only 19 have ever made it via the West Ridge, and 21 have died trying. After 6 weeks of blood, sweat and icy tears, the 9 strongest climbers are poised to make their assault on the top.
It's a scary place, it's a risky business. You only have to look at it.
And make mountaineering history by becoming the first British team to summit Everest via the West Ridge.
Since we've been on the mountain for 7 weeks, several people have been killed by the mountain, and she takes no prisoners.
So far, they've successfully overcome the hazardous and near-vertical French spur, navigated the knife-edged West Ridge, and established Camp 5, a vicious 8 kilometres above sea level.
You're a star, mate.
2 warriors.
But the most difficult, dangerous and potentially deadly part of the whole route is still to come. From here to the top is 850 vertical metres of the most technically challenging, high-altitude climbing on the planet, up the steep and avalanche-prone gully known as the Hornbeam Couloir. This treacherous climb has already defeated both of the military's previous expeditions to the West Ridge. In 1988, the team got just halfway up it before bad weather drove them back. And in 1992, they got even higher, to within a few hundred metres of the summit. But, exhausted by the effort, they too were forced to retreat. They at least lived to tell the tale. Historically, more people have died either climbing or descending the Hornbeam Couloir than on any other part of the West Ridge route.
For the Diagonal Ditch team to leave on Saturday.
Every aspect of this team's assault on the top has been meticulously planned. After 2 months of establishing camps and fixing ropes, the 9 strongest climbers on the expedition have been divided into 2 summit teams, who will move up the mountain through all 5 camps a day apart. First to go are Summit Team 1, led by John Doyle. He's climbing with Paul Chiddle, Guy Homan and Frankie Francis.
It's been 3 years in the planning, and for many people, myself included, it's been in our minds for much longer than that, so I think, that goal at the end of the day will keep us going, drive us on, keep us warm.
There's only us. We've got to go and do the business. The only way we'll be coming back down is if we're fatigued, beaten by the weather, or if one of the guys has a problem and we're escorting him off. Otherwise, no, we've got a clean run to the top, we're lucky.
We've still got a lot of ground to cover before we get there, but it'd be good just to get on with it, I think. I'm praying for good weather.
We'll move up a camp every day, and then from 3 we'll bang out across to 4, rest at 4, move straight across to 5, rest at 5, and then go for it. So that's going to be a very long day. It's going to be almost 36 hours.
The boys are inspired by the sight of dozens of successful summiteers who've climbed the more straightforward North Col route to the top.
Very strange feeling to see people on the summit while we're down here at Tillman's. I only hope we can emulate what they've done. And if I was a truthful man, I'd say I was a bit jealous.
Summit Team 1 will fix ropes up the Hornbeam Couloir before pushing on to the top. If they don't make it, coming up behind will be Summit Team 2, led by expedition leader Dave Bunting.
Next time we see these guys will be coming down from the summit and we'll pass them. Well, we don't know where it'll be yet. It might be at Camp 4, it might be in the Hornbeam Couloir. They'll be on their way down, so we're hoping and praying that that's 4 summiteers.
With all the teams at the moment, everybody's probably a bit nervous. Myself, I'm a bit nervous, but, hopefully 5 days' time, 5-6 days' time, we'll be sitting on top.
Be safe for yourself. Be safe. Yeah.
The whole 21-man expedition is now relying on the strength and skill of these 4 climbers. Ahead of them lie 5 of the most physically grueling days of their lives, climbing to an altitude where the air is so starved of oxygen that the human body rapidly deteriorates towards death. Already this year, 8 climbers have died on Everest from altitude-related problems. They include Frenchman Jacques-Hugh Letrange, who was collecting snow and ice with his wife to help study global warming when he collapsed just a few hundred meters below the summit. Even higher was Thomas Weber, a visually impaired climber from Germany who was within 50 meters of the summit when he went totally blind, lost consciousness and died. He was the second member of his expedition to perish, as 2006 turns into the deadliest year on Everest for a decade. After 3 days of climbing, John Doyle's team have reached Camp 3. But the night before their marathon 36-hour slog to the summit is due to begin, an unexpectedly heavy snowfall has given them serious cause for concern.
It's been frustrating. I mean, we've had some bad weather come in which wasn't predicted. We're waiting now to make a sort of final assault on the mountain. I'm excited and really just want to get on with it, to be honest.
2 foot of new snow now covers the entire mountain. And in the avalanche-prone Hornbeam couloir, that could prove fatal.
Unless we're lucky and it all sloughs out, we could end up either wading or retreating because of the avalanche threat.
Undaunted, Frankie and the boys make their way up onto the West Ridge for the final time.
Well, we're up on the ridge. And what about this review? Back down at Tillman's. And now moving across. There's Guy on the back end of the ridge. Check that out.
At 3 in the afternoon, they arrive at Camp 4. Between here and success is a vertical climb of just over 1 kilometre to the highest point on the planet.
Well, mate, racking up the big push.
It'll be at least another 24 hours before they sleep.
A couple of hours here at 4, and then straight up through that slot, off to 5. A couple of hours at 5. We're just going to spend that time eating, drinking, and basically taking the piss out of each other. And then midnight-ish, we're gonna strike out.
Summiting Everest means climbing through the night. The ideal time to reach the top is 9 or 10 in the morning, so as to have enough time to get down again in the daylight. Arriving on the top after 3 p.m. is generally accepted to be suicidal. You either have to climb down in the dark or spend the night in the freezing cold without a tent somewhere above 8,000 meters. After taking far longer than he expected to get to the top, British climber and photographer Bruce Herrod composed this self-portrait on the summit of Everest at 5:15 in the afternoon. A year later, his camera was recovered from his frozen corpse. For Woody, who has just completed his 4th and final trip carrying loads to Camp 5, the start of the summit bid is an emotional moment.
Seeing these lads off to sort of put the final bit in the jigsaw has been such a big part of my life for the last few years. It's awesome. It's just great, mate. I just wish them luck and safe climbing. It'd be cool, I know. It'd be great.
Time to go. It's calling.
Exactly.
After a final goodbye at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Summit Team 1 head off towards Camp 5. Now approaching 8,000 meters, the team are on the edge of the stratosphere and well into the death zone.
John Doyle, just ahead, pushing towards Camp 5, just below the boulder that you can see just there. And then in the background, start of the rise to the Hornbeam couloir, through the yellow band, and then hopefully sometime tomorrow in the clouds we'll be on the summit.
Back down at Tillman's, base camp manager Pete Longbottom is keeping an anxious eye on the team's progress.
Well, this is it. 10 o'clock tonight. They're going for our first summit bid. Everyone down here is feeling really good about this, and we're going to get up there. Good luck, John, Chids, Guy, Frankie. We'll see you on the top in the morning about 9 or 10 o'clock.
3 hours later, John Doyle's team and the Sherpas make it to Camp 5.
8 o'clock Saturday evening. Neema's preparing extra brews for us at Camp 5, 8,000 metres. Bring it on.
Coming up, the team climb on through the night, but then disaster strikes.
Tillman's. We'll never come back to the Himalayas. No, it's put me off for life.
After 3 years of planning and 7 weeks of preparation on the mountain, the British Army are poised to become the first British team ever to climb Everest via the notorious West Ridge. 2 summit teams have been selected, and the first, led by climbing instructor John Doyle, is now over 8,000 metres above sea level. Ahead of them is their final obstacle, the thin, avalanche-prone gully known as the Hornbeam Couloir. They leave Camp 5 at midnight and climb through the night, planning to reach the top at around 9 a.m. After an hour and a half, they've made it another 150 vertical metres up the mountain. But as they enter the bottom of the Hornbeam Couloir, there's trouble.
Tillman's. This is, just coming into the Hornbeam Couloir. Yeah, bad news, Ian, I'm afraid. We've come across some really bad wind slab. Roger so far.
Fresh snow and freezing high winds have combined to create a hard crust on the snow, which is resting on a soft, unstable layer beneath. Known as wind slab, this type of snow is extremely likely to avalanche.
Basically, you get this kind of easy release, it can be quite dangerous to cause avalanches.
The way to test for avalanches is to cut a section out of the snow and see how easily it comes away in what is called a Roosh block test.
As you can see there, it slid quite easily with little pressure.
The more easily it slips, the more likely the avalanche.
And what we call quite a clean shear snow. British classic avalanche terrain, unfortunately. We've all got together, we've done a couple of tests, and it's far too dangerous for us to progress any further over.
Yeah, Roger, obviously disappointed there, guy, but obviously
Safety paramount there, mate.
you just let us know when you get to Camp 5, over.
Yeah, we'll do that, no problem at all. Cheers.
It's just gone 5 o'clock and we're all really pissed off. I mean, really, really pissed off. The sad thing is there's some guys still asleep in those tents there. They're going to wake up in about 2 hours or so, and they're going to find out that John and his team are back at Camp 4, and they're just going to be absolutely devastated.
After a couple of hours rest, the despondent summit team emerged from their tents.
Everything was going okay for the first 3 or 4 steps, and then we started sinking, and it just got worse and worse and worse.
On a normal day, we'd have turned back straight away.
Yeah.
I think because it's a route it is, and we put so much work into it, we pushed on for a few hours, put up a few hundred metres of rope, and probably took a risk we should not have taken.
Of course, it's disappointing, but it's great to have them all back. John and the gang respected the mountain, and they're here to perhaps give it another crack in a week or 10 days.
For them to go back up the couloir, the wind slab needs either to consolidate, melt or avalanche out of the gully. The trouble is, no one knows if or when that will happen.
Yeah, Camp 4, send over.
Just thinking a way forward now, John. Have you got any ideas, mate?
I think it's going to take, probably a good week or more, considering the depth of the pack at the minute over.
Roger that. Camp 3, acknowledge that last.
I listened to all of that beat. Obviously John's the man having been up there, but it doesn't sound good, does it?
It could be a long-term thing, mate, and I think we should seriously consider coming down if that's the case, mate.
We'll leave everything in place and we'll withdraw to Tillman's today, all teams.
Tillman's, roger that. I expect you all come down here, out.
Reluctantly, the summit teams make their way down off the mountain. Resting on his way down at Camp 1, a disappointed team leader begins to consider his options.
We've got to look at all the positive avenues, because if we just look at the negative, we might as well pack our bags up now and go home. So we'll have a couple of rest days now for sure. If we do put a small party together to go back up, you know, those people could be going back up within about 3 days.
Yep.
I can feel the beer coming on tonight though.
Yep.
Dick.
Yeah, definitely.
But time is running out. The Indian monsoon is due to hit the Himalayas sometime in the next 2 weeks, and when it does, its heavy storms will close this season's climbing window. As the two teams arrive back down at Tillman's, the discussions about what to do next begin.
It's a giant fucking death trap. And for me, that is the issue. That's got to change for me to go back on the mountain. I'll be fucked if I'm having it on my hands if somebody doesn't come back because we want to top out and be the first Brits. It's bollocks.
I agree with you, and that's why it's the second option. Going away, coming back, you know, there's at least a week's rest, at least a week's rejigging the mountain, and then getting up there.
Dave, the only way that's going to change significantly in our time frame is if it avalanches. Then it might be worth going up and having another look. I think we'd be better off poised here because it could happen tomorrow, and then we can go straight for it.
I mean, you've got a third option there that we've already said. We're not going to put someone in the cold because it's a death trap. So why not just go around the north? We know we can top out on that side, and then you've done it.
We could have, you know, this is a mountain route. That's why we're here.
Yeah, you're right.
Dave Bunting must choose whether he wants to send a team back up to inspect the Hornbeam Couloir or to wait at Tillman's and hope for an avalanche. But in the couloir, the permanently freezing temperatures and the lack of direct sunlight mean that the snow conditions don't change much week to week. The only thing likely to trigger the avalanche is either a ferocious monsoon storm or the weight of a human being. Dave decides to call a council of war.
Yeah. Just interested to hear what your thoughts are on it all.
I don't think that slope's going to change, to be honest. It's up to you whether we want to try and look at it again.
Just to send somebody else into it again when you've been in there and come back with them conclusions is not a good idea particularly.
The only thing we can hope for is that it avalanches, isn't it?
And it's unlikely for it to avalanche, to be honest, on its own. Because it's sat there, it doesn't normally avalanche before the monsoon.
2 previous military expeditions have tried to climb the West Ridge route, and both times they had to turn back. The fate of the 3rd expedition now rests entirely in Dave Bunting's hands.
From what John's told us all when he came back off the hill, and from my own opinions, we're going to pull the plug as of now. I consider that going back on the hill is too dangerous. The snowpack is not going to change. You know, it's a seasonal thing. And if we'd got ourselves into position 2 weeks ago, or we've got ourselves into position 2 weeks from now, it wouldn't make any difference. The route block would be the same, the conditions would be the same, the danger would be the same. The most important thing is every single one of us going back alive. And if anybody disagrees with that, they're wrong. But I think it's important we now call it a day and all go home in one piece. Has anybody got anything to add?
Cheers, mate.
It was a very difficult decision, and I tell you what, the old emotion after that 30 seconds of complete silence, I think just spoke absolute volumes as to how hard a decision it was.
When he said put in the plug, I was fucking devastated. I was pissed off beyond all belief. I just had a strop on all fucking day. And for the sake of 3 years' works, I thought, yeah, we'll give it another look at least.
I know there was at least 4 of us who was willing to push it again, go up there and have another look and probably explore something different. But, you know, leadership's all about making, you know, harsh decisions, and I stand by it.
I will never come back to the Himalayas. No, it's put me off for life. I thought get to the top of the world. That's all I set my sights on.
Caught in the grip of summit fever, certain members of the team were prepared to take potentially fatal risks in pursuit of their dream. It fell to the expedition leader, Dave Bunting, to keep things in perspective.
When it comes to the black and white risk up there and whether it's going to clear up, everybody's on the same wavelength completely, and they go, oh, they're horrendous. no doubt about it, top of the range avalanche conditions. And then you'd say to them, you know, and what's your thoughts? What do you think we ought to do? Oh, we ought to go back up again. What? Some people were coming up with some quite outrageous ideas to go and bang up a new route on the north face of Mount Everest. There's a reason they haven't been done.
3 years of planning and training and 7 weeks of desperately hard and dangerous work have come to an end. There's only one thing for it.
Yeah, it's a huge disappointment not going to the top, but it's just been so much fun.
I feel fucked.
Made it finally up onto the West Ridge. What a absolutely spectacular place.
Let's cheers all and have a sit, mate.
I don't think it's a failure in any way. It was time to turn round. We'd reached our pinnacle, and what a pinnacle. What an expedition we've had.
Win or lose, we always booze.
We've come out here, we've done our best, we've given our all, and we've been beaten by, you know, the biggest mountain in the world. That's mountaineering.
Look at fucking learn.
People here, everybody's climbed higher than they've ever climbed before.
You're a star, mate.
Two warriors.
For me, yeah, it's great, 8,000 metres, but ultimately it's just a number. I think the great thing, selfishly, is the fact that Bunting's only ever been up to 7.6 before, I think, and in fact, yeah, it does mean quite a lot. In fact, for the rest of my life, I will be texting Bunting every day, and yeah, he'll know what it means.
It's been the making of me coming out here. It's been the best thing I've ever done, getting involved in these expeditions. You know, we've got tons out of it. There's guys there that have had the trip of their lifetime. And so not going to go back from here disappointed. And if anybody says to me, you know, commiserations, then I'll put them right.
On behalf of us and everybody else involved, I'd just like to say thank you, Dave Bunting, very much for this experience. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Dave Bunting.
Dave. Cheers, guys.
Since the expedition ended, Woody has married his fiancée Mel. Dave Wilson has been promoted to a lieutenant colonel. John Doyle has been posted to Germany, and Dave Bunting has been posted to Canada to be the Army's chief mountaineering instructor. Already, they are all talking about going back to Everest, determined that one day they will finally crack the West Ridge.